MeanStream lets you configure your ATEM as a set of scenes. To set those up, we have built a nice scene editor that gives you access to all the bells and whistles that ATEM software control offers too. But did we make it even better? I'll let you decide. Today I will show you how MeanStream Scene Editor helps you keep your scenes in check and how you never lose control over the configs you've made, or have not made. You will get what that means in just a minute. Let's begin with the basic structure and layout in front of us. You will find all the inputs to your scene in the column on the left. Everything related to mixing in additional video signals to produce the final output is located to the right. And to support you visually while building your scene, the preview window in the middle reflects your ATEM's output, as it will be with the current configuration. Okay, so far so unimpressive. Let's go a bit deeper step by step. An input is everything physically connected to your ATEM, but also internal sources such as media players and color generators. Most importantly in this section, the selector for the main scene input is represented as a drop-down in the top left corner. Depending on your ATEM model, different input sources will be accessible. This drop-down is the equivalent to the program section in ATEM software control. The input source will be rendered full screen on your program out. Switching between different sources, we can see the preview window changing accordingly. Everything related to your ATEM's keys is located on the right, and that really just includes upstream and downstream keys. In my case, I'm using an ATEM Mini Extreme, so it has 4 upstream keys and 2 downstream keys. At this point, I assume you know your ATEM well enough to not wonder what the heck is an upstream key. If not, find one of the great YouTube tutorials out there that teach you the basics of ATEM switchers. Last but not least, the preview window in the middle. It's not just for viewing though. I have added some capabilities that can really help you out when it comes to speed and complexity of your scene. First of all, you can use it to edit certain elements in your scene simply by using drag and drop. Let me show you at the example of supersource boxes. We set the main input source to supersource and enable box 1. As you can see here, a box has a few properties such as position, the size, and some cropping information. All of that can be added graphically in the preview window. Let me show you. This does not only work with supersource boxes, but also with upstream keys. The drag and drop elements manipulate the upstream keys' flying key and mask settings instead. Downstream keys don't have a flying key property, but they do have a mask, so the preview window is limited to editing that. As you can imagine, this drag and drop workflow greatly enhances your scene editing workflow, especially when it comes to scaling, cropping and moving 2, 3 or 4 supersource boxes around. You will be much quicker compared to manually punching in all the values. Finally, sometimes the preview window gets a bit crowded. Imagine a background with 2 supersource boxes, or 3 as I'm having right now, and an upstream key or even an additional downstream key enabled. These situations are rare, but they do happen. In that case, you get layers over layers in the preview window, and at some point it doesn't really help anymore. You can't figure out what you're seeing, and dragging and dropping anything that isn't the top layer is impossible. For these situations, the hide USK and hide DSK checkboxes can help you out. Let me show you. Keep in mind that these checkboxes don't remove the upstream or downstream key from the scene, they just hide them in the preview window. The entire time we've spent in the UI, we have seen checkboxes and little indicators flashing on and off. You may have noticed, and if not, I'm telling you now. Let's see what they do and how they're useful. With every foldable element in the UI, there comes a little checkbox that I have just implicitly toggled on and off before without telling you what they actually do. For the inputs on the left column, the checkboxes tell MeanStream to configure that input source when entering the scene. Only with the checkbox enabled, MeanStream will generate the macro operations to put the super source or the media player or whatever other source in the state you configured here. This will keep the macros short, but also allows you to retain configuration that you have made manually. The macros won't override those settings. In the case of supersource boxes, the checkbox has a double meaning. It does tell MeanStream to configure the box, but also to set it to enabled, which makes it visible on screen. Let's prove that real quick. Likewise, in the case of upstream and downstream keys, the checkbox tells MeanStream to configure it and to make it visible. So it's kind of the equivalent to the on-air button on ATEM software control. So that you always know what is visible on screen, I have added the on-air indicators to each input source and keyer. On input sources, the indicator shows you whether that particular input source is visible to the audience in that scene. And that works directly as well as indirectly. Let me show you what I mean. By selecting supersource as the main input source, the indicator on the supersource input turns on. Now when I enable box 1 and select media player 1 as the input source for the box, the indicator of media player 1 turns on. In the same way, indicators turn on when sources are being used in upstream or downstream keys. Whenever an indicator of an upstream or downstream key or supersource box turns on, it displays the actual input source being rendered. This way, you never have to dig in the UI to find out what's being shown. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive video into MeanStream Scene Editor and how it enhances your control over ATEM switches. With these tools at your disposal, managing complex scenes becomes more intuitive and efficient. If you found that tutorial useful, please give it a thumbs up and considering subscribing my channel for more content like this. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. We'd love to hear your thoughts and any questions you might have, so leave a comment below. And if there is a specific topic you'd like us to cover in future videos, let us know too. Thanks for watching and happy streaming. See you in the next video.